Hi, my name is Carl Stanley and welcome back to this section. Okay, so now we're going to go through a baselining exercise. But just before we do that, there was one thing I wanted to show you a little bit more of, and then we'll get more oriented with iServer. Now, as I said, it was integrated well with Microsoft Office, right? So basically, it hooks straight into Vizio. So it comes with some plugins for Vizio, and you can check in and check out all of your documentation, just like a document management system, really. You can check in and check out all of your objects, work on them collaboratively, and then stick those objects and commit them to the iServer database so other people can use them. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that integration with Vizio. So just have a look at this. Okay, here we are in iServer. So now what I've done is I've picked up a sandpit environment. Basically, we created a library, a sandpit library, and in it we put some examples. Okay, now this is what you'll get at the import. So that file that we're putting together that I showed you previously is basically importing all of these objects for you. Okay, so you'll notice that when you right click on these Vizio diagrams, you can hit edit document. So they give you a document preview, okay, but you can edit the document. So when you hit edit the document, out comes the Vizio document. And hey presto, see these little icons here? They're committing saving each object into the database. So that's just like a visual cue to say you can save these objects in and out of the database. And the other thing you get is this thing that says iServer Explorer, and you have an iServer ribbon. Okay, and that iServer Explorer allows you to click on any one of these objects, double click on them, and if in the repository there are named objects of that type, they'll start to show up. So application components, whole bunch of application components, and they are in the current library. So in that current library are all of these things, and in each one of these things you can see all sorts of different properties and things about them. Okay. So, for instance, see this one here? It says all related items. Hey presto, there you go. All the related items to Alesco and what the relationship type is. And we haven't gone into Archimate, but Archimate as a meta model has all of these different types of relationships and what is allowed between X and Y and source and target and everything. So we're not going to go through all of that, but just so you know, you can even change the layout. You can get in and out of Vizio, and then you can create objects or use existing objects. You can also, which is kind of cool, when you create an object, you right click it and hit send it to Vizio. So if I wanted to just take avatar and go send to Vizio, I think that worked. Then I go sent to Vizio. There it is, avatar. There you go. So very powerful stuff. Very easy to use, so easy to integrate. All you need is the right version of Vizio. All you need is a tool. Well worth the investment, especially when you have to get to the knowledge place because you have to do insights. There's more reporting and analysis later, but it's good stuff. Okay, so I'll just get out of that one now. Now, back to our agenda. We're going to do a clean up. Okay, so put yourself in the scenario. You've got business units, they're coming to you with all sorts of different things. You've got operations coming to you with many different things. So you're a solution architect, you're an enterprise architect, and you need to gain insight and put it into a structured view. So you've gone from unstructured data to structured data. Now, I've got some data that was crowdsourced as part of a SharePoint, okay? And that's good. It's going from, sort of unstructured to semi-structured, and it has a little bit of a format. Let me show you what I mean. Voila. I give you this file, but I just wanted to show you some neat little things you can do inside Excel to be able to clean up this data. So when I say clean up, what do I mean? You see this? This field in database language has too many values. It has multiple values with all sorts of junk in there. Same again for technology. Now you're going to have in your environments, people will throw out spreadsheets with pieces of system software for technology, even down to physical devices like servers and server names and that sort of stuff. A nice list that's unique, that can be imported into a tool like iServer to start your baseline is what you want to do. So when I say procedural level course, what do you do to clean this up? Well, so there's many different little techniques that you could use inside Excel. You can use some formulas and some functions and split up a string inside the cell and then split them out and make them into different columns and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you can do VLOOKUPs and pull things from here and make a table, and wouldn't it be easier if there was what Microsoft have put together, like Access? Yeah, that would be. Now they've moved a lot of the similar functionality that they have in MS Access into Excel for data manipulation or transform of data prior to loading it. So what do I mean? Data, queries and connections. Data, launch, PowerQuery editor. PowerQuery. There you go. Now what is that showing me? It won't let me go out. So you notice the table, the previous table that we were in, right here, where it had all the junk in it. You can go and get that table from a file, from a workbook, and import it into the PowerQuery editor. So I've done this previously. So underneath the data ribbon or the data menu, you can go existing queries and connections, double click it, and it should be spitting out. Sorry, my double click didn't work. The spreadsheet or the table, right? Now, what do I want to show you in here? Why do I say clean up? You see how it says current workbook table query 8? Okay, that's the name of the table. So if you go into design and you have a look at the name of the table, that table is called table query 8. But it's still got all this rubbish in it. Okay? Extra stuff in there, multiple values for the same thing. And that's our source. So the beauty of PowerQuery is it shows you all the applied steps. So if you go down there, those are all the applied steps for to transform that data and clean it up. So what are we doing? If you get the little gear icon, we're splitting a field, and in database speak, that's a column, by this silly delimiter, right? Each occurrence of that delimiter, bang, spit it out. So what did we do? We went from application portfolio, oops, where it is. See how the application portfolio with many different things in it. We split it out into many columns, but we're getting cleaner, right? We're getting less rubbish mixed up with the stuff that you want to keep. Okay, so you get the idea. Then we go into the world of pivot tables or unpivot, right? Now, all unpivot does pretty much is you select some columns, right? And in our case, we selected the application portfolio column and all the subsequent columns with the same data, well, supposed to be the same data, and we want to make unique records. So at the moment, before, they're all on one row, right? And so that meant that there were a couple of values for application portfolio, so that wasn't a unique record for that application. So it wasn't in sort of a one-to-one relationship. If you go to database theory, talk about one-to-one relationships, one-to-many relationships, all that sort of stuff. Don't worry too much about that. When you unpivot it, you're leaving the application value and flipping it, and then you're making them unique. So for every one of those junked up columns, I did a unpivot, and then I did some filtering, got rid of some stuff. You can click on the gear icon, see what the filters are for each of those value sets. So unpivot, filter. See, I filtered out a bunch of stuff and I kept the ones that I wanted to keep. Okay, so we basically go through a process of cleaning it up until we get to lists of stuff that aren't full of junk, right? So we have one application name with one lifecycle pointing to one portfolio with some related apps, but many pieces of technology. You see what I mean? Now this is the stuff that you're going to want to model. Okay, so I've just shown you how, via that one set of applied steps, to pretty much ingest any type of data that you want and start messing with it. Okay, now why do we do that? Well, right here, if we were to take this one column by itself and have that be the target, and then we were to have this one column by itself and that be the source, we could draw relationships between applications and technology. And if we had that under a meta model, how fantastic. Then we have nutted right down to the relationships between application and technology. Now, if you were to go to your current IT department and say, please give me your application to technology matrix, which is something that's standard, supposed to come straight out of the Open Groups Architecture Framework, as a matrix of things, could they do it? Would it be up to date? How often does it change? It's in a CMDB. We're doing a transformation. That's the scope. Ouch. How do you do future plans if you don't know what the application technology is, let alone what business processes or business capabilities are touching which applications, touching which technology? So we're at the point where we can start to get those relationships happening and the art of modeling. And why do we model stuff? We model things to see how they're going to react in reality. Being, for instance, let's illustrate. Why do you make model cars? Why do car dealers make, or car manufacturers make models? They stick them in wind tunnels to see how they're going to react to the wind, and they do scale models. That's what we're doing here. We're doing impact analysis and scale models of your environments to see how they're going to react when you try and call out certain types of change. And there's many degrees of separation between one component and another component, but they can impact each other. Then you need to make a risk assessment. Okay, so with this knowledge, we're able to make useful, help decision makers make useful decisions. This I am passionate about. This works. You can get amazing credibility and leverage if you just nut it down to this. Now, all we're going to do next is we're going to grab some of these, stick them in that format, spit them into the tool via the import, and then do some analysis. And that is the same steps that we put together for some other courses. I'm going to be pulling out some more courses, some for biz design, some for iServer, one for Archi. I'm looking at another one called Lean IX. Okay, so this is good stuff. So you get these files. I've just shown you how to do that. Now let's make sure I'm hitting all of the parts of my agenda, Right, clean up. We did our deliverables. We did our unpivot. Okay, let's call it there, and I'll show you some more detail about how we're going to transform our data. Thanks for coming along this far.